Welcome back, friends. So as promised, I'm going to share with you the story about the time that I almost died in a septic tank. So back in the day, I had heavy equipment. I had a truck and a trailer and an excavator, and my bread and butter, I was just a one-man show. My bread and butter was cutting out foundations and doing septic systems. I did a lot of, kind of my specialty, I did a lot of septic systems that worked with like sand filters and pumps. So the reason why, of course, the ideal is if you can go into a sewer, right? If you live in the city or an urban area, you're going to connect to a pipe that goes into the sewer. You don't have to worry about it anymore, right? But in country settings or rural locations, you have what they call a leach field or a septic system, various types of them, right? But all of them have, one thing they have in common is they have a septic tank, right? That's the tank that's usually in this area about 1,000 gallons. So there were a couple different styles. The style that I like to use were made by the Michaels company, and they were two-piece precast. So imagine like a big soup bowl, right? And then another soup bowl that would sit on top of the other one and with a seal in between it, right? That was a concrete tank. And the reason why they were two pieces like that is if you had a backhoe, you could still lift them, right? Because they're super heavy. Well, so you would dig a big hole, then you would put the bottom piece in, then you'd put the seal around it, then you'd put the top piece in, right? Now, many times these tanks would have pumps in them. Let's say, for example, you needed to pump a effluent clear up to a leach field that was not able to gravity. This is too much. This is way too much information. There's a septic tank, right? So on the top of the septic tank is a round hole, like a manhole, and you pull the lid off, right? Well, if you're going to put pumps and different things in them, you have what they call a pump riser, which is basically just a square cube with just four sides, precast concrete that is about 2 feet tall. And what that would be is you would raise that up to grade, right? And then put a lid on it. Then inside you could locate your pump housing and all that sort of thing. So I put this brand new septic tank in, right? And I put the risers on. Now this is on a Saturday on the job site in a rural location, so no one else is working on the job site. The house is framed, it's got the roof on it, but no one's coming back until Monday. So I'm completely out there by myself. So I install this, and I drop what they call a pump vault in. It's basically like a 16-inch piece, 18-inch piece of pipe that goes down inside of the riser. The pump sits in the bottom of them, and it's just basically a filter that screens the effluent so it can pump just clear liquid up to the leach field, right? So I'm hooking all this stuff up, and you kind of lean over, and you got to hook up the union and the fittings and all of that. Well, I smoked cigarettes back in the day. I used to smoke Camel filters in a box, and I always carried them in my shirt pocket right here with a Zippo, a solid brass Zippo lighter, right? That was my thing. So you know how it is. I mean, if you had stuff in your shirt pocket, whenever you bend over your phone, just the other day my phone fell in the water because of that, stuff falls out, right? So I got the pump vault set in, and I got all the electrical stuff and the mercury floats and all that, and I'm just getting ready to make that final connection, just tighten up that union, right? And sure enough, my cigarette lighter, my Zippo, it falls out of my pocket into the bottom of this pump vault, which is about 4 feet down there. I'm thinking, oh man, if it had been like a Bic lighter, I probably would have just left it in there, right? Let the grinder pump just deal with it. But the fact that it was my Zippo that I'd carried for a long time, and it was all patinaed and polished, I just had to have it back, right? So I thought, well, I don't want to take apart all this stuff and the union and redo all the electrical wiring on there. I'll bet I could kind of like shimmy down inside this thing and I could get that Zippo back, right? Well, so I started kind of going down into this thing, and I'm reaching, and it's tight. My shoulders are tight, but I'm still fitting in there, and I just can't get to it. I'm just like inches away. And so I thought, well, if I go a little bit further, and I've basically got my knees hooked, kneecaps kind of hooked on that square riser. And that's kind of preventing me from going down too far. And I think that I can kind of work my way back out. Well, my knee slips off, and I go shooting all the way down to the bottom like this in this position with my arms forward, now on the bottom of the pump vault deal, completely upside down, pinned in this 18-inch pipe. And my shoulders are tight, and I'm really in a bad situation here. It happened so quickly. I can see my lighter down there, but it's not doing me any good because I'm not getting out of this. And I can't call for help. And this is all way before cell phones, so that wasn't an option. And I'm thinking to myself, how long can you be hung upside down before you die? Because I don't think that I'm getting out of this thing, right? Well, so my head is feeling it's going to explode, and I'm like, I have to do something. I've got to do something, or I'm going to die in this septic tank. My granddad insisted from the time that I was just a little kid. I remember the first time he bought me a pocket knife. He always said that a man or a boy needs to carry three things. You have to have a belt, you have to have a handkerchief, and you have to have a pocket knife, always. And he saw to it that I had one. I wanted to be just like him, of course, so I walked around with that thing. So of course, I had a pocket knife. And so I thought, if I could get that pocket knife out of my pocket and it would fall down in here, if I could get that thing opened up, I could carve a hole in the side of this PVC housing that I might be able to get my fingers in up and extricate myself and push myself out of this, right? But of course the thing's in my pocket, right? Well, luckily I was wearing my tin pants, and tin pants are pretty rigid, and so even though I was upside down, the pocket didn't like fold over. So I'm doing this, I'm wiggling and I'm wiggling and I'm wiggling, and I can feel it, and within a couple minutes I was able to wiggle enough for the pocket knife to go clank and fall out, and it came out of my pocket and it fell in the bottom. Now my granddad also, to go back a little bit, told a story about how his dad, I think it was his dad or his uncle, having a pocket knife saved his life. He was in Oklahoma, and he jumped a fence to cut some corners and to go across a field, and a mean bull saw him and came after him and started mauling him, got him down on the ground and was mauling him with his horns. And he said, had he not been able, he was trying to fight it off, had he not had a pocket knife, he got his pocket knife out and he got it opened up, and he just started slashing and cutting on that bull's nose until it finally let him up. And I never forgot that story. So this is kind of similar to that. So the pocket knife falls down and I start carving. You know how hard it is to carve a hole in the side of a piece of Schedule 40 PVC? It's not easy, but when you're really determined, I was about to break that knife off, but I finally got a hole in there, enough where I could get my thumbs in on the side, but it was sharp. And I with all my strength, I pushed up, and I gained a little bit of ground, and that got me up just enough there were holes cut in the circle in this vault for the effluent to come in. I got another finger in there, and then I got another hole carved out, and I slowly inched my way out of there by chipping holes in the side of this thing and pushing it out. And it was so painful, and I'd been upside down for so long, it was almost, it was getting to the point where you just almost want to give up. You're just like, it's just too hard. My head felt like it was going to explode. Maybe I should just make my peace and just succumb right here, right? But I kept fighting, right? I kept fighting because I did not want to die in the septic tank. And I got my way out of there, and I never did get that lighter. I left it in there, and it's probably still in there to this day. I was so just happy to get out of there. I just knocked off the day early and just went home. Shouldn't be working on Saturday anyway. So yeah, that was the time. That's how it happened, that I almost died. What was that? Probably a mouse. Almost died in a septic tank. I have more stories than that. I'll tell you maybe next time, or one of these days, I'll tell you the time that I almost died skydiving. That was probably the closest call. That was even more precarious than the septic tank debacle. But that's it. That's the story. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video.